decisions around bonuses will not have been made, so I don't have that information.
Okay. So Mr. Doan perjured himself in front of a parliamentary committee. That's lying for the uninitiated. Is that the type of thing that disqualifies a CTO from a bonus?
I'm not sure how to answer that question in the sense that, I mean, there's a lot of hypotheticals in the way that you posed it.
If someone lies to a standing committee of the Parliament of Canada...
Yes, putting it that way, absolutely.
They cannot be bonused.
If it's a hypothetical, I would say yes.
Okay. How many email... And actually, I'm going to back up there. Would you get fired for that?
Quite possibly. It might even be you're not perjuring yourself. I would imagine the RCMP would take an interest in that.
Okay, Ms. Cahill is nodding her head that you'd get...
So when employees get their clearance, their security clearance, there are some criteria, and obtaining a valid security clearance is a condition of employment in the public service.
Okay.
Therefore, should the findings be found, it could really happen.
And is it known how many emails Mr. Doan deleted?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with emails deleted.
You're not familiar with the tens of thousands of documents that it's been alleged that Mr. Doan deleted?
No.
That is the time, Mr. Barrett.
Yikes.
Turning to Ms. Shanahan, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. And in the time that I have allotted, I do want to
It's an excellent question.
address the situation. I'm sorry, somebody else is, I'm hearing other. Okay. To the Auditor General, in your report regarding ArriveCan, you make mention in 1.6 about the report that you did in 2021, Report 15, regarding the enforcement of quarantine and COVID-19 testing orders, that indeed the government improved the quality of the information that it collected and how quickly it was collected by using the ArriveCan application rather than a paper-based form. Because what we seem to be hearing specifically from the Conservatives is an ideological objection to the idea of collecting information altogether. And yet the value for money here was having a digital form of collecting information versus a paper-based form. Can you please comment?
Point of order,
on this?
Mr. Chair. We're ideologically opposed to not collecting information, which is what they did when they destroyed
of order. I would ask you to refrain yourself. Ms. Shanahan, I have stopped the clock. You have 4 minutes to go, please.
Thank you. And I would like the Auditor General just to comment on, because we can all agree that rules were not followed in the procurement of the ArriveCan, the contracts to produce the ArriveCan and in the following up thereafter. That is certainly evident for all to see. But the value of the ArriveCan app is greater than the malfeasance that we see before us. I'd like to hear the Auditor General on this.
I think when it comes to talking about value at ArriveCan, I would put it into two buckets: the value that we saw during the pandemic, and then the value that would be enduring should the app continue to be used for automating the immigration and custom declaration form. So back in 2021, we did do 2 audits on border measures, recognizing it was the first time measures like this had been implemented at the border of our country. At the beginning, it was done by paper, and it was taking, in some cases, 28 days to get information to the Public Health Agency, who were required to follow up on whether people were actually quarantining for 14 days. So the digitization of that form and the automation of what was happening at the border allowed Canada Border Service officers to be able to physically distance, which was important at that time, and also to then improve the quality and timeliness of the information so that the Public Health Agency could take action and pass it along to provinces who were also using that information. So those were some of the findings that we had about the value at the beginning. And as I mentioned, now the enduring value would be whether or not the Canada Border Service Agency continues to use it as a measure to automate some of the aspects of crossing into our country.
Indeed, and that certainly will be important to monitor going forward. But those early days when there were no vaccines and no one really knew how to handle this, the only option we had was to be able to quarantine travelers and limit public exposure to COVID. Can we quantify the value of saving lives at that point?
I'm sorry, I'm unable to do that. I didn't do it at the time, and I would not be able to speculate on whether or not individuals quarantining had an impact.
Thank you very much, Auditor General. And just on the question of how do we monitor, how do we conduct oversight, we heard yesterday from Mr. Richard that indeed the cuts to the public service done by the Harper government, in which Pierre Poilievre was a member, hurt their ability to conduct financial oversight. And so I would ask Mr. Roupe of the Treasury Board, given that the Conservatives have voted consistently against salary adjustments for the federal public service, pretending that they are for additional oversight, but again, voting against it. What difficulties does this cause in hiring and retaining the kind of financial talent that we need?
So, first of all, when departments introduce proposals for the reduction, they have to understand the impact and how they are going to implement this, and they have to understand, how they're going to minimize those impacts on the delivery of their programs. Your aspect of recruiting people, that's been a problem in different communities, and I think you've heard, Catherine Lilo, the previous CIO at this committee a year ago, mention how difficult that was. We have the same problems in the financial management world, as an example, in procurement. It's not only the lack of funding; it's lack of availability sometimes of these people. For example, in Canada, we don't produce enough CPAs, to be fair. So I do have a problem in recruiting and retaining. But again, I come back to the fact that the departments have a budget that they have to live within, and they have to make decisions on how they will deliver their programs efficiently within the set budget.
Thank you. That is the time. Now beginning our third and final round. Ms. Bloch, you have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And my questions will be directed to our Comptroller General. I'm sure that you are aware that 2 public servants have recently been suspended without pay by different departments, allegedly for their role in the Arrive scam. Your department now employs one of the principal players in the Arrive Can saga, as has been mentioned by my colleague, Mr. Mindone. And he is the Chief Technology Officer, a position which we understand wasn't posted. So not really sure how he managed to get into that position if it wasn't posted. Has your department been contacted by the CBSA with any suggestion of wrongdoing by Mr. Doan, or any suggestion that he should be suspended without pay?
Up to this point, the department has not been contacted with the suspicions of any wrongdoing on the part of Mr. Doan, or that notion that he should be suspended for something at this point. The investigation is still ongoing, but at this point, there was no incriminating findings against Mr. Doan.
So in previous testimony, we heard that President O'Gorman contacted the deputy ministers of other departments with some allegations regarding employees within their department. Are you aware if the deputy minister has received any communication from President O'Gorman regarding the allegations of Mr. Doan and the Arrive Can app?
And I'll let Mr. Rochon correct me here. So, to my knowledge, the Secretary, CBSA, did communicate with our department, and like I said, we were advised that up to that moment, it was not me personally, there was no incriminating evidence against any wrongdoing against Mr. Doan. As I said, the investigation is still ongoing, but that, to my knowledge, that was indeed communicated to someone.
Maybe I'll just confirm. I started my position on February 12th, and as I came in, I did have a quick conversation with the outgoing secretary, who confirmed with me that he had not received any incriminating information regarding Mr. Doan. And I do not believe that the new secretary, Catherine Blewett, has had any conversations on the topic as of yet.
Okay, thank you. What sort of reprisals would an executive level member of the Treasury Board receive if they were found to have deleted thousands of emails related to access to information requests and multiple ongoing investigations? And I know you've already answered a hypothetical question, which I think was based on facts around testimony given at the Government Operations and Estimates Committee. What type of reprisals would be in place for someone who has deleted close to 30,000 emails?
I'm not an HR expert or a labor relations expert, but based on my experience of what I've seen, if there is malfeasance that happened and information that was genuinely discarded to hide something, for example, I mean, it could go to dismissal for sure.
Thank you. Notwithstanding the complexity of procurement, as we've heard today, and the pandemic, which we know is not an excuse for the glaring mismanagement that was identified by the Auditor General, I would have to believe that your hopefulness about what will be found or what will be done, and your comment that individuals should not give you too much crap about what is being found, but give you crap if you don't fix it. What are you doing to fix it? And have you determined a time by which it will be fixed? And how are you monitoring the situation?
So I'd just like to clarify, if there's an audit and there's something major that is found, you should take crap for it, honestly. What I meant to say is that audits are instruments that allow us to find weaknesses, and we should respect that, and we should take the measures to deal with it. So the department has a plan. We know of the plan, obviously. It was published. There are some actions that have already been taken. Now we need to monitor to make sure that these actions will actually work. There's also a plan being developed internally at TBS to make sure that we have a good handle as to, is there a larger problem here that we need to deal with? Is there something, like I said, always, although the rules have not been pointed in the audit as a problem, we owe it to ourselves to take a look at. Is there guidance that we need to implement, to do more of? Is there training that we need to do differently to make sure that our people that have these authorities, as I said, when you sign off on something, it comes with an accountability, sadly. But our job is to make sure that people have the tools and instruments to be able to discharge in those accountabilities. So we have to make sure to look at our own processes and tools to make sure that we're providing that to the people discharging on their accountability.
Thank you very much. Turn now to Ms. Khalid, joining us virtually. You have the floor for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. So just kind of going back to some of the testimony that we've heard today, it was said that a concern being raised about the procurement process, that small vendors or smaller vendors have a difficult time participating. So a team of 2 people, from all accounts that we've seen with GC Strategies, were able to take $100 million from our government starting in 2011 under the Harper government, and have then moved on to change their name and then continue to take dollars from our government through the procurement process. Either they were